with some people and do some networking. We're moving now to an interesting topic connected to the morning's presentations to do with CO2 fuel efficiency. Perhaps interesting in the sense that it falls slightly out of the scope of what we discussed earlier, but is certainly very relevant. We're going to be talking about platooning, and I'd like to welcome to the stage Dirk who's right with us there. He's Traffic Director for the Innovation Centre and Program Director for the European Truck Platooning Challenge. He's got a business economist background, involved in all kinds of public domain planning and strategy. And he's, over the last year, the I'll try the pronunciation, Rijkswaterstaat, which is part of the Dutch Ministry. Road provider, okay, so the road provider in the Netherlands, he's been involved in a project to organise the European Truck Platooning Challenge, which he'll explain to us. It's a very relevant topic for the Netherlands and for Europe more broadly. So welcome to the stage. Tell us what platooning can do for us and the European road transport system.
Yes, I will. Thank you very much for sharing my dreams with you. It's an honor to be here. And indeed, as the chairman said, I think it's really important to make the bridge between the world of sustainability and CO2 emissions and the world of smart mobility. You don't have to be a prophet to predict that smart mobility implementation can give a boost if we make the connection between those two worlds. And I'm going to talk with you about digitalization of transport in order to show that new concepts like truck platooning are going to connect and to contribute to higher social goals like accessibility, sustainability and safety, like we showed last year. Under my responsibility, we organized the European Truck Platooning Challenge, and I'm going to show you a video later on what, let's say, the benefits of truck platooning will be. And we drove with convoys of all the 6 OEMs through Europe to Rotterdam Harbour to show that it's possible. We all know that the desk is the most dangerous place from which to view the world, so the practice is the way we are going to handle it. And I like to present 4 aspects of my story. The first one is, of course, the why question. Why are we doing this? We know that we are living in a VUCA world, a virtual, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And it's everybody knows that digitalization of transportation will also have a huge impact in the world of mobility and logistics. That gives us a lot of chances. The second one is going to the practice. The way we really learn. So I'm going to show you, let's say, the way we organized the Truck Platooning Challenge last year and also the benefits of that for the next coming up years. We did it under the umbrella of the European presidency. For us as the Netherlands, we are only a very tiny, small country. We are more sort of a proof of concept. So everything we do, we like to do it on European scale, and we think as the Netherlands we can give a boost to those implementation because of the problems we have on the congestions and also the traffic jams, and we think our country is a perfect test area for that. The third aspect of my story will be going back to if you unravel the Truck Platooning Challenge, what are the critical success factors of that? What can we learn for further on action? And then the fourth is, let's say, a personal message to you all. We know that change is difficult, but it starts here today with you as you are sitting here. So let's first talk about the answer of the why question. Why is smart mobility so extremely important, like we learned from the golden circle of Simon Sinek? Last summer I was invited by Scania, the famous lorry producer with a griffin in their logo, the king of the road, and they organized in Paris a conference on sustainability. The reason for that conference, with several top speakers like former United Nations Chief Kofi Annan, was that they introduced on a global way the new generation of trucks. I was lucky to be one of the 1,500 guests they had in Paris. And it was organized in the Grand Palais, which is built in the late 1900s for the World Expo. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's full of glass. It was a beautiful sunny day in Paris, more than 30 degrees, so you can expect what temperature it was inside the Grand Palais. But the reason why I'm telling it here is that when we all came in that famous building, there was a huge billboard standing with the following quote: "By road alone, we transport over 8 billion tons of goods annually, which is similar to 1 million Eiffel Towers around the world." Mind you, 1 million Eiffel Towers we move annually around the world. And the question is, how can we do this more sustainable and meet a growing demand? Ladies and gentlemen, when we organized the Truck Platooning Challenge, we had various talkings with the senior management of APM Terminals in Rotterdam Harbor. I don't know if you've ever been there. That's the highest automated container terminal of the world. And the responsible people for the APM Terminals, they predict that the 12 million containers now coming in Rotterdam Harbor for transportation to hinterland, so to your country and to Eastern Europe, is going to be doubled within a decade. We're not going to double our infrastructure. Our infrastructure has reached the limits of their abilities. But, dear friends, there are more challenges to overwin. If you look at how we move our goods through Europe, 75% of everything is going by road. 1/3 of all the lorries, they move air. They're empty. And if we do nothing, the congestion cost will rise by 2020 with more than 25%. And besides that, in December 2015, we all signed the famous climate agreement in Paris, because we live on the earth of our grandchildren. And global players like Unilever, they show us in a win-win approach that sustainability and profitability can go hand in hand. But you have to work on a long-term agenda. And this is also very important for this audience, to make the bridge between the world of sustainability and the world of smart mobility. So, ladies and gentlemen, we really have a serious problem. In the coming up years, we have to realize a huge challenge: implementing smart mobility, intelligent transport systems, and not just for fun, not just for hobby, but for contributing to mobility and sustainability. We have to dare to make the step, the jump from doing things better to doing new things together with others, which ask for a real transformation, a systemic change, far away from optimization of the current system. And you don't have to be a prophet to predict that this challenge is not about painting the garden fence or tightening the screws in the nuts with the idea that we're ready for another decade. No, this will ask for a real change, like we learned from Albert Einstein. Don't solve the problems on the same level they're incurred. It will ask for a radical change the way we look at our world. Because if you change the way you look at things, the things that look change. And of course, this is difficult. Easy problems don't exist. And to show the complexity of this challenge, due to the enormous technology push, to the tsunami of new technology, we are living in a world of fading borders. A change in several conventional diving lines, let's say on 3 areas. The first one is borders between public and private. The second one is fading borders between the different segments of mobility: traffic management, infrastructure, car, and telecom. It all comes one to one system. And the third one is, of course, the fading the borders between the different kingdoms in an organization to realize innovations. The classic and the way we develop from serious to parallel, natively after each other, in order to realize a total different time to market. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we are in a hurry. And to show that it's not a vista, I was able to join early this year to a smart mobility study tour to Silicon Valley and Las Vegas. And let's say the message when I came back in Amsterdam office to my boss was that the original agenda with from 10 years is now within 1 year changed to 3 years. So within 3 years, all the OEMs and the tier ones are going to deliver, let's say, autonomous or connected driving. So we really are in a hurry. So let's go to the practice. That's the second one of my story, and for that reason I just want to show you a small video about the benefits of truck platooning.
The transport sector. By 2025, around 70% of all freight transport will travel on public roads and place enormous pressure on European highway infrastructures and the environment. If we do nothing, the congestion costs will rise by 50% by 2050. And on top of this logistical challenge, we're striving for a greener transport sector. How will we tackle these challenges? One high potential solution is truck platooning, trucks slipstreaming very close behind one another. Truck platooning is made possible by using a combination of different technologies. Equipped with radar, camera, and GPS technology, the trucks know their precise location. The trucks communicate by wireless vehicle-to-vehicle communication, which reduces their individual response times to almost zero and allows them to drive very close together safely. Truck platooning has many advantages. Platoons take up less space and don't overtake. In the future, platoons as a whole may overtake one another, in particular in hilly terrain. This optimizes road activity and minimizes traffic jams. Driving so close together also decreases the air drag, resulting in less fuel consumption and fewer CO2 emissions. The first pilots and experiments were successful and looked promising. But how do we put truck platooning into practice on a large scale within the foreseeable future? The only way is through intense multidisciplinary collaboration on the part of the various stakeholders. First of all, the technology needs to be further developed and optimized to assure a stable and safe wireless connection between the trucks. Standardizing communication between the trucks will also allow trucks of different brands to form platoons. Safe interaction with other vehicles is also of vital importance because the platoon must be able to respond to traffic. Thanks to traffic prediction and dynamic gap distance, the platoon will be able to adjust to traffic situations and weather conditions. Every platoon can be identified by special warning lights. But it's not only the technology that needs development. We also need to adapt international legislation, which regulates factors such as the permitted degree of autonomy and allowable driving time. The number of roads where platooning is permitted will be significantly expanded between 2016 and 2025, beginning with national motorways and 10T corridors, utilizing ITS infrastructure where possible. The logistics and operational aspects will also need to be properly regulated. A platooning service provider will be responsible for certification and act as the central traffic coordinator for the truck platoons. In due course, this will also allow other trucks to join the platoon on the fly. what's going to happen over the next 9 years? We will move forward by teaming up and implementing pilot projects. When we share our knowledge, experience and ambitions, we'll overcome all obstacles. Because the only way to sustainably improve the future of our transport is by working together, shaping a new reality, creating next-generation mobility.
So in this approach, we are going further, and you can imagine if you drive, let's say, with a convoy of Volvo trucks from Gothenburg to Rotterdam Harbor, you don't know how many authorities you'll meet on your way, and they all think anything and they all want anything, especially in Germany with the Bundesländer, in Belgium with the federal government. So for that reason, we were very proud that our minister, Melanie Schulz van Hagen, was able to sign the Declaration of Amsterdam, in which for the first time in history, smart mobility was put on the European political agenda, where it belongs, with the 28 ministers of transportation and mobility. They signed it all last year in Amsterdam to put some progress on the agenda, especially on the interoperability of, let's say, the rules and the legislation, which is really important. Our next step is, because this was, let's say, a first step when we organized the European Truck Platooning Challenge. Of course, the OEMs were very interested in, let's say, our roadmap and our long-term agenda, because they all asked me when we first came in Brussels to discuss this idea, is this just a party for the minister, or is this just a first step towards 2025? And our next step is organizing real-life test cases integrated in the logistic business process of the shippers. And the wheels will be on the road at 2018, all focused on biking without training wheels in 2020. Then truck platooning must be operational on European scale. And that's really the best evidence we realized a breakthrough in implementing next generation mobility. So let's go to the critical success factors, number 3 of my presentation. What is the secret of this success? Why did it work? And why was everybody so enthusiastic? The answer is network leadership, the power to handle beyond the shadow of our own kingdom. We call it dignified triple helix, equal partnership between governments, between the markets, between the knowledge institutes, and between the environment. As shown here on this picture, all these 4 parties have to make progress and to work together intensively to realize this new kind of concept. All together in a community, shoulder to shoulder, working at the same goal, with benefits for all the participants, in a win-win mode, as learned from Stephen Covey, but also with in mind what we learned from former US President Harry Truman. It's amazing what you can accomplish if you don't care who gets the credits. In order to enable such an horizontal cooperation, where nobody is the boss, only the customer, but the customer has not enough power to realize a breakthrough, 3 things are very important. The first one is, of course, a crystal clear goal. The second one is an approach from the customer experience, from the customer journey. And the third one is a common sense on our habits. This is the way we work here in this community, our shared values. Let's go to the first one, the dot on the horizon, the promised land. How does it look when it's ready? What will be the situation in 2025? And of course, that's very difficult. For that reason, we organized also invitational conference with the community to work on a roadmap towards 2025, as also showed in the video. Because what we learned from Peter Drucker, he said, if you like trying to predict the future, Peter Drucker said, trying to predict the future is like driving down a country road at night with no lights while looking out of the back window. And his advice is, do not predict the future, just create the future. In the spirit of what we learned from the Brazilian Archbishop Dom Helder Camara, if you dream alone, it still stays a dream. But if you dream together, it starts to become reality. And for that reason, we're also going to work on a value case in 2020 for the whole ecosystem. What will be the benefits of for the whole ecosystem if we have in 2020, let's say, on a daily basis, 100 platoons leaving the Rotterdam harbor, which is only 5% of all the total lorries. And can we also make these benefits on a quantitative way, so the safety, the CO2 emissions, and we think if we have that value case on the level of the ecosystem, it's much easier to get a sort of a breakthrough, because at the moment everybody is within his own silo, the shippers, the carriers, the road authorities, the governments, etc. And we need to have also the benefits of the whole ecosystem, especially those items who are not really easy to quantify. What will be, let's say, the benefits if we have 25 less traffic jams or traffic death? And we think that these items are really important to make those transparent. Let's go to the second one. It's the customer journey. Of course, it's all going about technology, and technology is very important. But at the end of the day, technology is just one piece of the total pie. There are a lot of other aspects which are also very important. And we have really to focus on the customer journey and on the application. What will be possible with using this new technique? We want to create value because, let's say, it's not about a product, it's more about a performance. You don't want a lamp, but you want light. You don't want a heater, but you want climate. And you're not looking for a car, but you're looking for mobility. And if you look at what Steve Jobs told us, the man was responsible for selling more than 1 billion iPhones, I think rightfully to call it proven technology. He said, you got to start with the customer experience and walk back towards the technology and not the other way around. So let's go to the third one, that's the shared values. If you have a community with all these different stakeholders, you can imagine how difficult it is to work together, because everybody has a different language, a different culture, different habits, different ways of steering, and also another governance. Look only at let's say, the huge difference between a political organization like my ministry and a organization who is in charge of the shareholders' values. So that means that if you really want to have a good community, you have to work on shared values. And these shared values are also a little bit old wine in new boxes. It's not new. It's like we learned from Stephen Covey, start with the end in mind. So we started towards 2025, and then we took the different steps back and to make a sort of a shared agenda. The second one is, as I mentioned, focus on a shared goal. It's very important if you have a shared goal to get also the energy of everyone. The third one is value creation in terms of citizens, as mentioned in the customer journey, which is important. At the end of the day, it's not about the technique, it's about the application and the way we're going to create value with that. The link with innovation in the business model. You can imagine that digitalization of transport is also going to have a lot of impact on all the different business models. Confucius proof, which we learned from Confucius 2,500 years ago. He said, write it down and I forget it. Show me and I remember it, but let me feel it, I embrace it. I'm going to internalize it in my own daily behavior. So also, if we want to change, we don't have to write booklets, but it's better to do it in a way like this type of films. And last but not least, because we are in a hurry, as said, within 3-4 years, all the OEMs and Tier 1s will have new applications on autonomous driving or connected driving. The time to market needs to drop very fastly. So build a bridge while walking across it to lower the time to market, and which is very important, the learning by doing approach, and that's nothing new than we learned from the Agile Scrum in the IT business. To put small steps and then learn from that. Ladies and gentlemen, let me summarize. Of course, it's difficult to conclude, but the core of my story is the transformation towards the next level of the innovation life cycle. The transformation from centralized values, so communication, command, and community, to new trust, to connection, to craftsmanship, with a neutral balance between top-down and bottom-up, in which we make also the connection between different worlds, the world of sustainability and the world of smart mobility. And that starts today, here, with you, because what you want to kindle in others must first burn into yourself. And let me conclude with the famous Steve Jobs. He said, the people who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do. Thank you very much for your attention.
Mic's not working. There we go. Thank you, Dirk. So we have time, as usual, for a few questions. The obvious question I'll start with is, in the trials you've done in Europe and elsewhere, what sort of fuel saving do you see for the trucks involved in the platoon? Are we talking a few percent or 10%? What kind of saving is involved?
Well, you saw that on the movie. It's about between 10 and 15%. But of course, you can't get a business case with only less fuel. So there's more to do. Let's say the cooperation in the logistics sector has to increase to realize, let's say, the benefits of truck platooning. But of course, let's say the short-term benefits is less fuel and less CO2. Yeah.
And in practical terms, how far away are we from the point where the drivers of the following vehicles can leave their seats? Or will they always be in their seats? No,
that's a good question. I haven't been talking about this because it's not really my approach, but in platooning you have 5 different levels. We started this with the first one because for us it was really important that all the different OEMs also participated. We wanted the whole market. But as you all know, players like Volvo and Daimler, they are quite far, and they are, let's say, experimenting with level 3 or 4. Level 5 is without, so then you have a convoy of, let's say, 3 or 4 trucks with only one operator, and not a truck driver, but an operator. We think that that will be not operational before 2025, but in fact, you don't know how quickly it is going. But at this moment, we are looking for a breakthrough because all the OEMs in which we talk, next week we're going to have discussions with the Scania senior management in Sweden. They have, let's say, the discussions with the emissions is of course hanging above their heads. And what we hear from, let's say, a company like DAF, they say, well, we can only spend our research and development money once, either to the CO2 emissions or either to truck platooning. So I think it really is important to make a sort of a bridge between these two worlds. Then it can give a boost, because if we don't have, let's say, the trucks then we can talk a lot, but then there won't be any platoon on the road.
Thank you. Is there any questions for Dirk-Jan? Yes, microphone's on its way. It's only a second away. And
you have a loud voice.
And a quick introduction, if you could, your name and company. Thanks.
Hi, George Waduli from Multronic. I have a specific question on the platooning, because in practice, platooning is already happening. You have the motorway Heilbronn to Mannheim, where the right lane is completely covered by trucks.
Yes.
What I want to know is, will these be three trucks from the same company? Because they will all have to start at the same time, because otherwise they have different rest periods and so on. And will it be also, goods-wise, more or less the same destinations? Because otherwise you have a huge problem. You have a huge problem. As long as they go on a motorway, that's fine. Yeah. But as I said, rest periods.
Yeah.
And then, if the haulage companies, there are some haulage companies who push their drivers really, and let's say, not to be illegal, but just to overlook some things and so on. And truck drivers are traditionally basically a poor bunch of guys who have to follow, and they are all basically their own entrepreneurs, no? Because
yes,
many of them own their trucks,
yeah,
and that's it.
Well, thank you very much. And of course, you're right. This is what we took, is the first step. And of course, we have to develop a lot. The things also mentioned in the film is multi-brand platooning. At the moment, it's the standard. As we speak, these standards are now developed. But at this moment, it's only possible to have 2 or 3 lorries of the same brand. And of course, we want to go to a multi-brand standard in which you can also have platooning on the spot, like you saw in the film. There has to be developed a lot of new infrastructure, like hubs and all these items. And of course, you're fully right. On the motorway, it's quite easy. The last mile is, of course, the most difficult of the total routes, and there has to be developed also some items. And last but not least, the question you ask about interoperability, about the legislation, of course, and that's one of the reasons we put smart mobility on the European political agenda, because we have to work on these items as well, on the same level in which we are going to develop the technique. So there is still a lot of work to do, but this is the first step.
Many practical challenges to do with platooning. Any final questions for Dirk-Jan? Yes, one at the back. Thanks, Eros.
Dirk, I have one question. How open do you see the European governments really to adopt for a level 5 technology? You talked about your level 3 and level 4 technology, but you went around the level 5 technology. The implications on our business would be significant, even
yes,
not changing the entire business at all.
Yeah.
So we are talking about millions of drivers. We are talking about lots of other things related to that. So, and you just talked on, let's say, 2025 for a level 5 application. If the technology would be ready, of course, this is a precondition. But how do you see the governments really be reacting to such a technology?
Well, in fact, I don't know. It's for me also difficult to predict this. I think you're fully right that these items are important, but let's say first, let's focus on 2020. Let's focus on the wheels on the road with level 2 or 3. And that's also one of the elements of learning by doing in Agile, is that we learn from that situation and then go to the next level. And I think you're fully right that we have to there will be a lot of challenges to overwin. So I'm not sure how we're going to do it, but I'm sure that the technique is giving a boost and is going to change a lot of these items. And in what way we're going to act, I don't know yet. I think it really is important to put short on the ball, so you really can be flexible enough to act if it's necessary. And I think that's one of the lessons we learned from this type of new technology implementation, that it's going to hit everything.